You're still searching for that breakthrough that always feels just out of reach. What is your true life path, and how do you finally find it? Welcome to Say It Anyway, the podcast where we help you unlock the breakthrough you've been waiting for so your true life path can finally come to life. Each week, we share powerful practical tools you can use right now to start transforming your life. You'll hear raw, honest conversations with people from all walks of life, people who found their way forward and are here to share mindsets, strategies, and wisdom that help them get there. I'm James Ferrigno. I've helped people reconnect with their power for years. I'll guide you beyond surface level solutions into a deeper way of seeing the world, one rooted in connection, courage, and open-hearted dedication. This is your space to think differently, live boldly, and finally do the thing you were meant to do. Let's get started. Welcome to Say It Anyway. I'm James Ferrigno, and our guest today is Dominic Vucci, who has a background as a practitioner and teacher of intuition medicine and a spiritual practice. Dominic has taught for many years as one of the faculty members and teachers at the Academy of Intuition Medicine in Sausalito, California. He also has his own intuitive spiritual coaching and counseling practice. Dominic's approach is aligned to an ancient philosophy of non-duality, as well as the present time practice of connecting to the healing power of our innate spiritual wisdom and connection to Source. Welcome, Dominic.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I'm glad to have you on the show. And we've known each other through the Academy for about 8 years now, I think.
Yeah, sounds about right.
I appreciate you being on the show. Let's just get to it.
Okay.
What led you to become an intuition medicine practitioner and counselor?
My story is a little unconventional in just that rather than a conscious seeking spiritual journey, I, in my wild youth, crashed a car, came, close to, serious damage, but luckily came out unscathed. But it really started me on a search to ask questions, to be like, what is going on? Where did this come from? Is this a message? Do I need to get the message? Is the next time going to be something more horrific? So for whatever reason, that started me on a journey of sorts. And I sought out different teachers, not to get a answer, but just get some insight, get something going. I didn't even know what I was looking for. So came across Francesca McCartney, who teaches the Academy, developed the Academy curriculum, teacher of meditation. And at the time, didn't have any background in meditation, but she offered to have me try out the classes, see if I would like it. And it just really spoke to me on a very practical level. The idea of being more centered, more yourself, more present, just felt like it was a good, down to earth, practical way of going about things. So from there, it just grew in terms of a practice, and, the rest is kind of history, but that was my starting point.
And how did your personal healing journey influence the kind of work you do now?
Yeah, I think this is really a cool question because I feel like each of us has a unique, it's kind of like our individual fingerprints, or snowflakes all being different. I think there's a genuine offering that comes through our experience. That is to say, I don't believe that we are somehow broken and we got to get fixed. And once we get fixed, we have something to offer people. I think the journey, the process, what we go through is what we're offering. So somebody I spoke to 10, 15 years ago may have been where I was at, and that's what they needed to hear, because that's where they were at. So I think, wherever you are in your journey, that can be a very powerful offering, just speaking truthfully about your experience, your perceptions, what comes forward as a offering to others. But I would say for me personally, given my background, my story, my upbringing, I think it's just very similar to what I just said, really supporting people in finding their truth, not working towards something, but really getting in touch with what is here what is available, what is their kind of path. So, having people connect with what is true within themselves, resolving conflicts or challenges to come to that place that's, maybe buried under something, you might say.
So kind of having respect for who you already are rather than
Yeah.
feeling there's something wrong with you or that you're broken, which I think can be an impediment to what you're trying to do when you
Oh,
believe
yeah.
that there's something wrong with you, you know.
Absolutely. And how many people get caught up in, I'm almost there and I just have to do one more lecture or graduate one more class, get one more degree. And all the while suppressing or ignoring some part of them that's kind of calling out for connection. So I think there's a great power in saying, hey, let me pause right here, listen more deeply, and connect with that essence of who I already am.
So kind of an awareness perspective, focusing on
Yeah,
those
or
awareness.
yeah, another way to frame it is continuing the pattern. I think I'm growing, but maybe I'm just acting out my wounding. That is to say, I grew up in a house maybe where it was never enough, and I always had to produce, and I had to always, outperform the other guy. Well, here I am in my spiritual work, trying to outperform, trying to outdo, trying to
Mm-hmm.
accomplish, and maybe the healing. I'm just kind of bringing up a your random example, but maybe the healing, giving that storyline, is not to perform, not to try. It's rather to get underneath what that wounding was, what the driving, um, impetus was. Get back to childlike
Mm-hmm.
innocence prior to the patterning, that started up in the first place. Can we just be here in this moment in a deep and accepting way and get out from under all that activity?
Yeah, I can really relate to that. I know myself when I grew up, it was really instilled in me to work hard, and that
Mm-hmm.
working hard would get you where you want to go. You'd achieve your goals, you'd be happy. And I definitely took that into my spiritual practice and spent
Absolutely.
many long hours working hard at it.
Yeah.
And and then, well, it's not working. I better work harder then.
Yeah.
That's the answer. And then that really becomes a treadmill
Yeah.
of kind of working for work's sake.
Yeah. Yeah. Never quite feeling like you're getting to that deeper place. So, like you say,
Hmm.
just activating more of the patterning, working harder, longer, whatever.
Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of this endless spiral to, well, until the place you figure out that that's what's happening. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
And
guess.
so a lot of my practice is around coming to that great place of present moment,
Hmm.
of just allowing an awareness of what is right here, not trying to have it be a certain thing, not package it up, not have it change, shift, be better than, be different.
Hmm.
Uh, really creating an opening for just an acknowledgement and embrace of what is actually here right now. Sounds so simple. I call it simple, but not easy. Sometimes there could be emotion. And here again, we tie back to whatever story we have. Maybe emotions weren't allowed in our household. So coming to emotion is kind of difficult, but it's simple. So simple, but not
Hmm.
easy. That act of making room for what is right here can be extremely profound. And it's really at the heart foundationally for all the work that I do.
Absolutely. I'm completely on board with that. Um, Back to you. When did you
Mhm.
first realize you had intuitive abilities? And was there a process to learn to trust those?
You know, I don't see myself as different, somehow more gifted. It's
Hmm.
something I was really drawn to. Yes, if I look back in time, the, definitely being a sensitive child, picking up on certain things that other people didn't pick up on, subtle stuff, impressions, maybe knowing somebody was going to call before they called,
Mm-hmm.
having dreams that then played out and came true. Um, but it was never like, oh my God, this is such a weird special gift. It was just seemed like
Mm-hmm.
normal, sensitive life experience. But what I would say is anybody can concentrate and here we are coming back to work, but
Mm-hmm.
attune to their own intuitive capacity. So just listening more deeply. Yes, there are some practices that can be employed to develop that. That's why the Academy of Intuitive Medicine is
Mm-hmm.
there as a one option to, you know, in,
Mm-hmm.
enhance this practice, if you will. But yeah, I don't know that it was sort of quote unquote a special feeling, but
Mm-hmm.
always being a bit sensitive. And, when I came to the Academy and meditation as a practice, I mentioned, it was sort of traumatic, this car crash experience I mentioned. Um, but for me, it was like turning the table rather than feeling sensitive and sort of bouncing off the walls in the world, being able to work with that sensitivity, kind of put it into practice in a way that helped me understand that it can be a benefit. Do you want to walk around in the world oblivious, or do you want to channel that sensitivity in a more manageable way? Is kind of how I've termed it in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. I yeah, food for thought. Um, can you describe a typical session with you if someone were to come to you as a practitioner, as a
Mm-hmm.
come to you? Then what might someone experience coming to you?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been doing this for quite a while, and what keeps me going, what keeps it interesting, is that every session is different. Um, so it's really the playful curiosity about what might unfold, what is here available in the space. So it's not so much coming with a rigid practice per se. I do this and then I do this. What I would say is my practice oftentimes is over the phone. I will have a brief conversation to just connect. And then I will get quiet for a moment or two, close my eyes, and internally just ask the question, what is highest and best to come through? What is that offering? So, kind of directing my intuition, my curiosity on an intuitive level towards this idea of what's highest and best for the client. And in that, I'm really emptying myself, letting go of thoughts, ideas, advice giving, all the things that you might bring to the table. I'm letting all of that go. I'm just simply creating an opening, sort of a clean, open container for what might show up that's highest and best. And in that space, um, my intuition takes hold and images come
Mm-hmm.
forward and messages and symbols. So it starts a bit of a narrative and we start a little bit of a dialogue. And oftentimes it's me describing what's coming forward. And, that which is coming forward is, really from that highest and best place. So you might call it a reflection of what their higher spirit is communicating to them, as one way to
Mm-hmm.
frame it. Um, and sometimes it's a conversation about points, things to consider, different avenues of thought and perspective. So it can be, just as I've described, a reflection of something higher, something more informed from them. It's not my advice giving. I've had clients call me with all kinds of questions, and I'm like, I'm not qualified to speak on this. However, let's go into hold this sacred space, this intuitive space, and see what shows up. So it's that sort of independent, informed field, which is being tapped into rather than a personal experience. Um, there's a time and place for therapy and experts. And for me, this is something different. This is holding sacred space for spirit to kind of be reflected.
So you're holding space for uh, the person you're working with and seeing what comes forward for you and for them, kind of
Yeah, I would
in the
say it's
moment.
a
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. It's always moment to moment, continually coming back to this surrendered state of I have nothing to say. However, this is what's coming through. So constantly pinging their spirit, you might say, having their spirit communicate what they are processing. It doesn't help to give them some kind of lesson of what I think is best if that's not in alignment with them. So I'm really tapping into what is the purest, clearest communication that they can have to inform their next step. I have no idea what that is, but their spirit does. So it's helping them get connected or communicate with their own spirit. And for me, that's incredibly rewarding. And I often get, comments and, emails afterwards. That was really great. And that was so helpful. I feel like myself again. And I'm like, well, that was you, so thank you for the
Yeah.
compliment. But it's really them connecting with themselves.
Hmm.
And again, it's a beautiful thing to be a part of, but I don't take credit for those aha moments or those breakthrough thoughts or considerations. It's really me just picking up with that angled focus what their spirit is showing for them.
Yes. This really reminds me of something that's been coming up quite a bit for me lately, which is the idea of service and being of service to someone else. Uh, for me, what I have found recently is that it's being of service to the other person, but also to myself, but also to the moment,
Mhm.
source, whatever you want to call it.
Exactly.
And it's kind of this triad of service that you're doing it. Does that resonate with you at all?
Absolutely. At the academy, we have different sayings related to the practice, the teaching of intuition. And one is give a healing, get a healing. So that is
Mm-hmm.
holding this healing space, providing this space for someone to connect with their spirit. But in doing so, you are raising your vibration. You yourself are getting in touch with your own spirit. So it's,
Mm-hmm.
just as you say, source all around, whether it's in the context of connecting and offering, being present and availing yourself to this intuitive process, or some other aspect or perspective. It's all activating and connecting with this underlying source experience.
Absolutely. I love that. Holding space. So this is
Mm-hmm.
something you hear a lot about and maybe is a little bit not completely understood out there. Maybe you can, what does that mean to you, holding space, and how does that come into your practice?
Yeah, it's a main pillar of what I do. As I've described, it's not so much me giving advice. Oh, I've
Mm-hmm.
been through this before and take my advice. It's quite the opposite. It's a
Mm-hmm.
real refrain from a personal advice giving perspective and an emptying out that is creating an open, clear container, as I mentioned before. So, holding sacred space is that process, holding um, a clean, you might call it spiritually sterile container for them to drop in and be present and get a strong sense of themselves. What good is it if I'm adding a filter or some particular spin to it? So holding sacred space is again, really a core part of the practice for me. I've heard it described as holding truth. So the idea of associating sacred space with field of truth, encouraging a truthful engagement with one's own experience or process they're going through.
Good. Yeah, I've found that personally that for me it's a heart opening
Mm-hmm.
activity, and that it's holding space with compassion for self and other.
Yeah.
And what's your view on that?
I think it's all of the above. It's really beautiful to put it in these different frames of reference so
Mm-hmm.
different people can come at it. But I think it's all
Mm-hmm.
the same thing. You're
Yeah.
creating that openness. One client may hear the language of heart centric softness, caring, compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Another may just really tune into the resonance of, I'm out of the way. This is a safe space for you to share
Mm-hmm.
whatever's going on for you. So, yeah, all of the above for sure.
So I guess there's an infinite number of ways, or as many ways to look at it as there are people.
Yeah, that's a great way to
And
put it.
yeah, yeah, we all have our own. Yeah, I conceived of it in so many different ways.
Mhm.
I know myself, and you never know. At one moment, you know how you can hear something 100 times, and then just one time you hear it slightly differently, and it really just gets through, and you're like, "Oh, the holding space. Now I get it."
Exactly. For me, it was self love. Growing up in a
Yeah.
family where it was what you did and how well you did it, and so just that kind of conditioning. And for me, it didn't really click when someone said you need to love
Mm.
yourself. But one day, boom, it just occurred. It just broke through. So it
Yeah.
was the right moment at the right time. And that brings up a good point about my own practice. I can't tell you how many times the message coming through, this reflection of their spirit, makes perfect sense. I'm like, wow, that was really a beautiful sentence that just came out of me. Not my thoughts, but just a reflection, me piecing together the intuition and offering it back to the person. Just really, it really stood out. I wanted to write it down and read it later, but it doesn't get through. It didn't quite click. It wasn't the right timing. And then come to find out, a week later, a month later, the same client says, "Hey, I had a breakthrough, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, we just spoke about that. I literally just mentioned that 3 weeks ago. So, what I'm trying to
Wow.
say is, it is that practice of honoring that space. It's almost like a gardener, going out and tilling the field and doing the things and preparing the space, but not trying to control when those flowers grow, when those flowers blossom. It's got its own timing. So, yes, you can cultivate the space, but when the person's ready is when it activates and when they get it. You can't pound something into somebody. And just like you
Mm-hmm.
can't say what's right for them to hear, you're just offering out of this sacred space, this held space, um, what is coming forward, what aligns with your intention for highest and best, for really nurturing that sacred space, creating that opening. But then they'll get it when they're ready to get it. And your words are
Mm-hmm.
maybe a helpful part of the process, but who knows what it is? It could be like walking down the sidewalk and, just seeing a little flower grow through the cracks in the sidewalk, and they're like, aha, So you just don't know what that final piece of the puzzle is that helps wake up them in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the touching on the self love part, I had the same thing where people said, I heard it for years,
Mm-hmm.
self love, love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea what that meant. I would just, kind of put up my arms and go, that's meaningless to me. That means
Yeah.
nothing.
Oh, I
How
used to
could,
get frustrated.
yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
don't keep telling me this. Tell me something
yeah,
else. Tell,
yeah, yeah.
tell,
I
tell me
really didn't
something
like
I can work with,
it.
or something I can, take some action. Because I was the producer, the action guy. I would strive and work
Yeah.
hard.
Hmm.
And give me something I can work hard at. Self love is too amorphous. I can't work hard at self love. So at
Yeah,
the
yeah,
time, that was my assessment. But things change
yeah,
over time, of course.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was very similar in that I want practical tools and results,
Yes,
right away.
exactly.
And so, that was like you said, very amorphous. And I think I did. Maybe you can. I'll share a couple things, but I learned to start to break through on that self-love idea with, oh, it means taking care of myself. Like, so if I'm hurt, I take care of myself. So instead of continuing to push myself when I'm tired, I stop and rest. Instead
Mm.
of not, instead of when I hurt my arm, just continuing to lift boxes and getting hurt worse, I stop and go, oh, wait a second, maybe I should put a pack of ice on that. And that started giving me okay, that's self-love, like taking care of your body. I think that was at least something solid enough that I could get a grip on it. I don't know. Did you have any things like that with self-love?
Oh, that is a good question. I think it was just maybe more gradual for me over time. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
that it was a instance where things broke through. I just kind of
Mm-hmm.
felt like in all the readings I was doing, at this point, thousands, it just, the patterns, you know, the message slowly starts to seep through on my end as well. Um, and I would say it took the shape of something along the lines of the fullness of character. So if we're saying this healing practice is about tuning into one's own divine nature or the essence of who they are underneath their programs, imprints, and patterns, isn't self love then um, pre existing? And can I get out of the way for that fuller expression of who I am? So slightly different flavor to it, but again, we
Mm-hmm.
all have our different paths, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe there was something I could have done early on and gotten the message, had the breakthrough, but that was my experience, a slow roll over time, just suddenly feeling like, hey, there's a fuller dimension of myself, and can I soften right here? Can I create a opening and be more tender and listen to these other aspects of my experience?
Mm. Yeah, good. That's good. And I think part of that is I think I've found that it's not so much doing things. If there's anything to do, it's to cease doing whatever it is that I'm doing that's getting in the way.
Yeah, I love it.
So
Yeah, that's
it's not
definitely
really about.
become, yeah, definitely part of my practice, big time.
Yeah.
Is like
Yeah.
feeling that impulse to do, and be like, okay,
Mm.
hold on, what's here, what's arising. So I have a um, daily morning meditation practice, and oftentimes I'll
Mm-hmm.
just sit there and say, okay, what do we got? What is here? And it's not so much what are we going to do about it, where are we trying to get to?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here meditating. I want a certain outcome. No, it's quite the opposite. It's just like this morning's meditation was about this crazy dream that popped up and had me really stirred up, and it was very vivid. And, um, it was a process of just like calmly witnessing what was there, allowing sort of a calm presence to
Mm-hmm.
take its form again. And if I'm ever, I don't know, too busy and I get right into my day, I notice that I carry that same intensity or energy. So it's nice to have a morning practice where I just kind of reset, pause. Okay, that was the dream
Mm-hmm.
state. We're going to go forward now in more of a holistic fashion, bringing that fuller dimension of awareness, as opposed to like, oh, I'm running from this crazy story that's not even here. It was an echo from a dream state. But it's nice to have that reset.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So, a couple of things you mentioned were control and
Oh, yeah.
outcome, and kind of the attachment to outcome control.
Yeah.
Do you want to open that box and see what
Sure.
you find in there?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm no expert on any of this. I'm just this person who came along with their own practice. Over time, felt like there was something to share with others, but I never at any stage said, I've mastered it. Here, come
Oh,
follow me. So
yeah.
the idea of exploring the dimension of control, yes, happy to speak about it, but I would not be coming from some kind of expert advice place, just in my
Mm-hmm.
own process, like the self-love we just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you start to realize, wow, this control, it creates an outcome, creates some kind of condition, but is that ultimately a limited expression? Or is that really correlating with a sense of opening, expansiveness, the expression of a fuller dimension of who I feel I am? So I think just over time, you start to dial into like, this is me being myself. And the control starts to feel like, that's not really myself. That's a small part of me. So I may be caught up in a moment that is calling for a controlling action, but I know kind of in a larger sense that that's not where I want to exist or perpetuate my expression. So I think it's just over time you start to realize, that didn't feel good. That didn't feel like all of me present.
Mm-hmm.
That felt like a limited version. That felt like me being rigid. And that's not what I want to foster. So I forgive myself, and tomorrow's a new day, and let's hit reset and come at it with that fuller dimension. So it's not so much controlling the controller, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really just bearing witness, bringing some awareness, softening, and coming back to that wider expression or that more open sense about my own expression.
Mm. Yeah, really, really great. I I've found that often, like, say there's something, oh, I don't like this behavior in myself or maybe someone else, and so I'm going to try and change that. It's
Yeah,
kind of the default thing. And I've found that even just on a practical level, rather than trying to change it, just the simple act of being aware of it
yeah,
seems to actually can really transform things. Many times I've just the awareness and then, oh, wait, it went away.
yeah. It's no longer
I'll just,
that thing.
yeah, yeah, just the being aware of it and kind of being compassionate and aware, not critically aware
Yeah, exactly. Because
and beating
off,
myself up. Yeah.
yeah, oftentimes what I'll see in client sessions is some form of judgment, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll say, I hate that I'm so judgmental about myself. I really got to work on that. I did good last week, but then this week I just really screwed it up." And I'm like, wow. So judging the judger, like, is that the thing?
Yeah.
Or whatever. There's a lot of different variations on that, but
Mm-hmm.
doing the thing to improve the thing is not really a path for success. So, as you said, awareness, bringing compassion, sort of diffusing the bomb, so to speak, the
Mm-hmm.
activity. Maybe the judgment, deep down is tied to, not feeling good enough or whatever the story may be. And so nurturing, compassion, receiving the experience with openness can be the actual engagement that diffuses that, expression. So I think, wow, look at me judging the judger. Having a little
Mm-hmm.
humor about it, having a little openness. That's just what occurs. I had the history I had. I'm bringing awareness. I'm softening. I'm considering this. Um, those actions feel different than trying to control or get on top of it with, again, using that same dynamic or energy.
And that's the end of part one of my interview with Dominic Vucci. Join me next time for part two.